Hey everybody, welcome to Sunday Fun Day. This is my first ever Watch Me Work session, so fingers crossed. So today, what I'm going to do is work through a project, and I have something kind of in my head, this little sketch I did, and I just wanted to enter the the Minted Challenge, and it ends on February 6th, so I have to get it done. So today's storming, so it's going to be the day that I work on this and get this worked out. So while we wait for everybody to come in, I know several of you, it's good to see so many familiar faces, but some of you I don't know. So let me know where you're calling in from. And let me know what you're working on right now, what your creative project is. I would love to know what you're working on. So drop that in the chat while we wait for people to pop in here. Okay. I need to get a few settings going here. All right. Rohini's here. Sampada, she says she's so excited to see my process. We'll see how that goes. Annie's working in Color Camp mostly. I know most of you from Color Camp or from Multicolor Minds or from Bonnie Christine. Some of you I don't know though. So it's good to see some new faces, some new names popping up in here. Donna just finished working on her color palettes. Sampada's also working on Color Camp. Rohini's getting ready for Immersion 2024. Yes, me too. We're already welcoming alumni right now in Immersion, so I'm already working in Immersion 2024. I'll let you guys know a little bit more about that later. Becca is also working up her last bits in Color Camp. I'm going to submit in the community. Hey, Betsy, good to see you. I got your email late and I was going to respond to you, and yes, I'm going to get to your question. So I'm glad you are here. Livon's on Color Camp and her type project. Yes, that's what we're working on in Multicolor Minds as well. Tracy Knapp's working on her Color Camp and her mini booklet. Hi, Alana. She's in San Leandro. And she's working up her... Oh, she's working on her 9 submissions for wrapping paper too. Great. Awesome. That's so exciting. I can't wait to see what you're working on. You should post them. Um, Terry's working on Color Camp. Everyone's working on Color Camp. I love it. Cynthia's working on the multimedia fiber art landscape. Wow, that sounds incredible. And she's applying what she's learned in Color Camp. And yes, she's gearing up for Immersion 24 as well. Awesome. Betsy's having lunch. I haven't had my lunch yet. That sounds really good. Yes, Annie, I'll be showing you kind of overall process so that people can get an idea of what to expect when you're submitting something like this. Now, I'm not minted, so I'm not the, say all in this. But there's a few more people. Welcome, welcome, everybody. It's so good to see you all here today. So I know most of you, many of you, and if you don't know me, I'm Xhico. I am an artist and designer, mostly specializing in surface pattern design, typography, branding, and color. I also have a course called Color Camp, which many of you are in my course, Color Camp. I also have courses and lessons on Skillshare that you can check out there. And I also have a membership called Multicolor Minds. I'm a very busy person. And I am also an expert on Team Bonnie Christine for her immersion course, which is coming up on February 13th. I think just next week is when it launches. So, oh no, it's maybe, I think it's the 13th. Yeah. And so, but I'm already at work there. And tomorrow starts a free workshop with Bonnie. If you don't know Bonnie, oh, thank you, Livon, the best expert. That's so sweet. If you don't know Bonnie, she's amazing. And that's how I got started in surface design. I actually got started taking this same workshop that she's starting free tomorrow. So if you're interested in surface design, I highly recommend that you check it out. And I'll post a link here later for you. I have an affiliate link because I work for her. So, and I've taken the course and I love it. I mean, it kind of changed my life, to be honest, because now I'm doing so many new things with my art. All right, so let's get to this project here. And all right, let me see. Here, I'm going to post my affiliate link now so I don't forget because I probably will forget later. So if you're interested in joining that, you can join that. There's the link. All right, let me share my screen. All righty. So here we are in Minted. If you're not familiar with Minted, it's a great website that has cards and gift wrap and stationery that are designed by artists like us. And it's very easy to enter. And it's one of the few kind of challenge, websites that I actually do enter because the rewards are good. They have a fair licensing uh, royalty that they pay you. And so, and it's fun. They have some good challenges and it can put you into good practice. Now, I don't go overboard like Alana said she was doing 9 wrapping papers and kudos for that. But I could never like have the time to do that many, but I do like to do a few. And I had something kind of the back of my head. And so that's why I wanted to enter this challenge today. So if you haven't entered, you will need to have a Minted account. It's free, but you can sign up and get your Minted account. And when you go to the website, you're going to want to go to participate. And when you come to participate, you're going to see submit your designs. They have a voting process and they have a very kind of very structured process of how they have an open call and then they have a critique period for usually a couple days, and it's a voting period where the community can vote. And then after that, the editors take a look and the editors pick some choices. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. And then your artwork sometimes needs to be tested to make sure that it's printable and looks good on the things that they're testing. And then if you win, they'll contact you and ask you for your final files. And they have very strict guidelines for each product and it changes often. So you always need to check what's going on with their brief. So here we are on their participation page. And what you want to do is go to submit your designs here. All right. And then we get here, you want to go to see open challenges. The open challenges are listed right here. And you can see up in the corner, this one's open for submission and it has a submission deadline date. And this is the one that I'm entering and it has a submission deadline date for February 6th. It says submit here. This one's in the vote stage. This one's in the vote stage and this one's closed. It says announcing winner soon, announcing winner soon. And you can go show more and see the other calls that they have and you can go and see the winners as well. So when you come to the challenge, you're going to want to click on that specific challenge. And when you get to the challenge, it's really important to take a look at this page. You could see it's already open. People are getting feedback and they're taking polls on, do you like this larger design better or the smaller scale better? And so you can do that. You can read all about that on your own and figure out how deep you want to get into that. Here you can see the submissions that people are entering. And there's all kinds of wrapping paper here. And then down here, you'll see about this challenge. So you always want to read this. This gives you a brief overview. And so here it tells you they're planning to take 50 designs from this challenge. So you have, a pretty high chance of getting the design selected. And then it says with priority of these occasions listed below. So they're definitely looking for Christmas, winter holiday. They're looking for birthday for kids and adults. They're looking for baby, wedding, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, and then everyday multi-purpose. The submission limit's 10, and this CMYK category does not mean anything about CMYK printing. It's a kind of ranking process that Minton has internally when you become a seller or like an artist that's selling on Minted. So here it gives you a quick kind of overview of what files they're looking for, the critique period, and then up here it tells you the prizes. So you'll receive a prize plus 6% commission of the sales sold. And first prize is $2,000, $1,500, so pretty good prizes. Plus they have editor's picks with $330 in prizes. And then here's the leaderboard, etc. Let's go back to the top. But kind of the most important thing to get is the brief, which is here what we read, and then to get the challenge kit. So I'm going to download the challenge kit, and you just click it and it will download. In the challenge kit, you're going to find the templates, which you could see everybody here. All the entries look identical. They're all using the exact same template. They're showing the scale they want that at. So these sprinkles, for me, are really large for sprinkles, but they're kind of cool. But this is showing, we'll get into the template later, but these are the scales that you as an artist are intending for it to print. So after you download the challenge kit, you're going to have your template. This challenge is also open to having foil. So foil means, let me go and show you here. I can't remember what category this is under. Well, rather than waste your time, I'll just explain it. So foil is like when you have a shiny material that's embossed or, stamped onto your paper. And they have specific colors of foil that they use, and they provide you images of those that you can use to mock up your art. And then if it's chosen, they would print it as such with that foil. So some minted challenges are open to that and some are not. And this one happens to be open to that. So that's another option that you can do with your art here. And then in the challenge kit, lastly, is you're going to have your brief. And this is the big brief. This tells you all the key dates. It tells you the overview again. And then here it gives you final details. And basically, you want to use original art that's never been published before for anything. If you've won something, you don't want to repurpose your art. You could read all these details for yourself and get all the rules, but you don't want to do iterations of your art where you're providing different colorways. You need to pick one colorway. And that's why it's really important to understand how to edit your art yourself. You don't want to put, let's say you do 3 colorways of something, you don't want to fill your portfolio with every colorway. You need to learn how to edit your art and pick, which one you think is best because that represents you. And you also have to consider who the audience is and if that color is right for that audience. For me, I use bright colors, super bright colors, and I have to make adjustments to my colors usually when I'm entering something for Minted because their audience, if you go and look at their products, you can see that there's a range of colors. Sometimes there's some super high contrast or things that are surprising to me, like maybe a black background with a floral print or something like that. And they look high end and elegant, but generally there's a kind of a gem tone muted kind of color range that you see in minted products. And so I tend to stay in that world when I'm considering my designs because I know if I put something too bright or too electric that it's not going to fly with their customer. So that's important to remember as well. Now, when you're submitting your designs, you also might want to consider like work you have in your portfolio that you haven't sold yet, or work that you just haven't even posted that you might have sitting in Procreate or your Illustrator files or what have you, which is some of the things that I'm going to do. But here you see their prizes. They have Editor Picks Awards, but then they have special prizes, which are really cool because they have Out of the Box Award for the most design forward, innovative design that you would find only at Minted. So these are special prizes that they choose. And, this one is interesting. Holiday Characters Award for the best pattern featuring a common holiday Christmas icon like Santa Claus, but, reimagined in a fun and fresh way. So they have all these kind of different little awards. So if you have some art that specifically you think would work for the baby award or, the baby category, those would be good ones to enter and kind of focus on rather than kind of starting from scratch. Like the ones I'm thinking about, the kind of geometric one I have in my head is probably would qualify for a Just for Him award or maybe a classic award that could be used for a wide variety of holidays and occasions. And then I have a Christmas one that would work as well, So I have some different categories that I think would be covered if I entered the ones that I'm thinking about working on. So it's always important to check this. You want to read all the participation guidelines. Don't enter AI art. Don't copy other people's art. Make sure it's 100% original. Um, don't they have all the links here if you want to find out more, like what is a different colorway or is this design repurposed? They have a whole flow chart of questions you can ask yourself. And here that tells you that they're looking for non-foil and foil pressed. So they'll provide, you'll see if you download the challenge kit, you'll see in there, there'll be a folder, and I'll show you how to use those, of images that you can use for your foil kind of metallic simulation, which is something that I teach my students in Multicolor Mind. So if you're from there and watch that lesson, you probably know how to do that. And here they have specifics on foil pressed elements, and here's the foil color specifically that they provide you with that you can use. And you can use stock art, but I personally just say don't do that. You can create art. If you have to download a balloon or something, go take the time and draw the balloon. And then, here it says, for example, only designs that pass their printing test will be announced as winners. So you might be contacted and think you have a winning piece of art, but if it doesn't pass their printing test, then you might not be a winner in the end. Here, your file must be in Adobe Illustrator format, and it must be in CMYK. If you're using type, it has to be editable in Illustrator, and there's some other notes. I'm not talking about type today with this because it's not really what I'm working with motifs. Also, and then it has the final file requirements and other rules. But also, so they're asking for CMYK. I work in an RGB workflow, and I'll explain that in a little bit and why I do that. But also when you're posting your final art here, they're going to want you to post it as a RGB file when you post it to the website. So it talks a little bit about that, and I'll just show you exactly the process here. All right. So what you're going to do is after you download their files, you'll see here is the submission template and how to use it. And it shows you the relevance. Here's the size of a quarter, and here's the size of a number 2 pencil, and this is 15 inches. Now, if you read the details of this submission, they have a regulation that is your wrapping paper pattern repeat has to be divisible by 30. So it means that the vertical height has to either be 30 inches, 15 inches, 10 inches, or 5 inches. It can be any width. And if you know me, I like to do those in pixels. And I like to make sure, for example, 5 inches is 360 pixels. So when I do my width, I want to make sure my width is also an even amount of pixels. And that's to help stop the occurrence of having a fine line, a white line in your art. So I always measure in pixels and make sure it's an even number of pixels. You can watch more about that on my YouTube. Let me post the link for that. There's some lessons on my YouTube that you can watch more about if you ever have white pixels in your or white lines in your pattern. I have some lesson on there on how to do that. Let me see. Let me answer these questions in the chat really quick. Diane, I don't know technically when you say lose the rights to your design. I think with their licensing agreement, I know it's exclusive, so you can't use it anywhere else. But I always make sure that I'm able to use it in my portfolio. But I've never won a minted wrapping competition, so I don't know technically that. You have to read their actual details. Sampada by published on doesn't mean share it on socials. I think it just means not available for sale. I think it specifically says that. All right. Does anyone have any more questions about the submission while we're talking about it? Let me stop the share for a second. If you do, use the little reaction button at the bottom, and then you can click raise your hand there. All right, none? All right. Let's go back to the process here. All right, so this is the final file that I'm going to be uploading, but I'm going to be working in a just kind of a different file, a raw format here. And this is a sketch. This is just something I saw in my head that I put down. And it's something that my students in color camp right now are working on a kind of a tint and value, or a tint and shade project. And it kind of came from that lesson and the exercise I had them do. And so I kind of saw this in my head. And so I sketched it down really quick on a piece of paper. So you can see that sketches could be super rough and just kind of chicken scratches, but you're just more making a mental note or a visual note for yourself, of your concept and what you're going to come back to. So for me, that's enough of a visual note to remember kind of what I have in my head that I want to plot. All right, so we're going to, because I know this has to be divisible by 5, and so that means, let me stop my share. So that means that, this is a 3x5 card. And so they're using a repeat that, I mean, it has to be divisible by 30, but 5 is one of my options. So let's say I want to have these circles that I'm imagining. I want them to be about 1.5 or 2 inches. So if I use this, I'll probably have about 3 of those circles is what I can get in this pattern. So if I go bigger, and let's say I decide to make some color variations, I now am working with the 10x10 repeat with my vertical. And then I have more options. So here I can only put 3 shapes or 3 versions of color of those circles that I'm doing. But here I could put 6 or maybe more versions of those circles. Or if I wanted to gradate the colors, let's say, and make it go from, red, orange, yellow, through the rainbow sort of thing, I have more play now because I have a bigger work surface, a bigger artboard to work with my pattern. So I'm going to start with a 10 by 10, and then that will also let everybody see kind of the pattern bigger. If I start with something small, it's hard to get an idea of it. But even if I make something with a 10 by 10, and because of what I'm thinking in my head is very geometric, I could probably reduce it to like a tiny little repeat that would work. Technically, it just needs to be a little tiny bit of the repeat if everything was the same and I was using less. But it just depends on how this turns out. I have an idea and I don't know where it's going to go exactly. And I kind of have an idea of how I'm going to build it already as well. No, the artboard size, Sweeby, is, or this board size is 5 inches by 3 inches. But for minted, you have to have it divisible by 30 on your vertical. I mean, it has to divide into 30, sorry. I'm not a mathematician, I'm an artist. So you have to divide, 5 divides into 30 by 6, 10 divides into 30 by 3, and then 15 divides into 30 by 2, and then 30 by 1. So that would be your options. And it says that in the brief when you read it. All right, so let me share my screen and get into this here. All right. Katie, do you have a question? Yeah, okay. Hey, go ahead.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Nice
Good
to
to
meet
see you.
you.
Nice to meet you too.
I know you.
I
I
know you too.
So my question is about, because I saw you have yesterday I checked in this challenge because I didn't know about that. Just when you send the emails, they have a challenge. So, but my question is, we can use one pattern we already have, or yes?
Yes, you can, but not if it's been sold or you're trying to license it somewhere. And if you read their details, also after you submit a pattern, you're kind of in pattern jail for 90 days. And
Yeah.
you can't pitch that pattern to anybody else for 90 days in case
Yeah.
you're kind of putting dibs on it, in case they
Yeah.
decide, well, maybe we need one more, they might call you. But if you
Yeah.
pitch that to somebody else in those 90 days and they call you, they're going to say, I can't pitch that. So as far as I know, yes. And then the other thing is, um, you have to size it to be divisible by 5. I mean, by into 30. So you have to make it either 5 or 10 or 15, like I said. So if the pattern that's 8 inches tall, you either need to scale it up so that the height is to 10 or scale it down to so that it's at 5.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. This is my question because I have some parent in my portfolio, but I think okay, but I can't use in 90 days, so I can't send this portfolio.
You could just take the
Or
page out of your portfolio, like make a copy of it, and then take the page out and re-export it, or however you built it, make a copy and just take the page out. I would do that. And then for, or you could even put like a little red dot in there or something and say like this pattern is currently under consideration for license or not available or something like that.
okay, I understand.
You can definitely do something like that. But then when I say scale your pattern, I just want to clarify, don't squish your pattern or
Okay,
stretch your pattern. You want to scale it proportionally.
I have to do it. I
Yeah.
have to do it again.
Yeah.
My partner, but in this, because sorry, because I thinking in my design, my butterfly design that looks beautiful for babies or something like this, but it's in my portfolio. So
Oh yeah, that would be great for babies.
Yes, Bonnie, she put this in the we are surface parents, so I don't know if I can use this one.
It's I just read the minted through again, and just I think it says designs that aren't for sale.
Okay, okay.
So I think you're okay
So
putting it on
I can
social.
use this. Okay, thank you,
Okay,
thank you.
you're welcome. All right. I don't know how many designs I'm submitting, Deborah. I am working on. I haven't used them for production, but I have a couple like ones like Katie. I want to repurpose them that I haven't submitted for anything yet that I think might work for some things. And then I have a couple motifs. One's a holiday typographic motif that I'm probably going to show you today. And then one is this geometric one that I have in my head that I'm working on. All right, so let's get to this geometric one. All right, so here we go. So I know that I want to use a 10 by 10 artboard, and I'm going to start here, and I already created this, so it's just a regular letter size. So I'm going to go to edit artboards, and here I can edit my artboard to be 10 by 10, which I think is 720 by 720. Oops, wrong. 720 by 720. All right. So I'm starting at 10 by 10. And I know I have this idea that I want to do these repeating circles that make kind of a star shape in the negative space. And I want to do the same sort of cascading star shape with shading sort of technique. You can see the pink lines that I have on are my, what do they call those? Your special guides? Smart guides. And so those are my smart guides. And what they allow me to do is, for example, I can lock in on this corner perfectly when I'm using my smart guides without much, much fuss. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this shape right now, and I want to build my star shape. Well, I need to build this negative shape here because I need to color it. I just can't make it a negative space. And I need to build this kind of target idea. So I'm going to do the radiating circles first. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to start working in black and white for this. So I'm going to go and make this black. And I'm going to go, I'm going to make a copy, Command C, and then Command F to paste to front. And I'm going to drag this down. And I want like 2 steps or maybe 3 steps of gradation between here. So I'm going to drag this down. I don't want the shape in the center to be too small for what I'm kind of visualizing. And I'm going to make this kind of a 10%, let's say 20% gray. Now what I want to do is I want even steps between these shapes. So the easiest way to do that is to select both. I hold Shift and select both. And I'm going to go to this little blend tool. I'm going to double click it. I'm going to tell it specified steps 3. So it's going to give me 1, 2, 3 rings. That might be too many. Let's say 2. No, let's keep it 3. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here at the top, and I'm going to click at the bottom here. I mean, not the top, but the top of each one of these shapes. And so I click here, and you can see that it made immediately the step-by-step. And because I colored this lighter first, it made the transition for me already, basically what I'm envisioning. So you can see, so this is the circle that I drew, and this is the circle I'm envisioning. Now I need to get that star shape. So this circle is an effect, and you can see that when I have on my guides, it will snap basically right when they're next to each other. And then I'm going to hold Shift and Option and pull down. And so that's the star shape in there that I'm looking to create. Oops. It can be a little finicky with my Wacom tablet's getting, the nib needs to be changed. There we go. So how am I going to get this star shape? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Pathfinder tool. And I'm going to go over here to my rectangle. And I'm going to draw. And just to make this easier to see, I'll make it a color for now. And I'm going to send this to the back. Shift Command left bracket. All right, so that's the shape that I'm trying to get right there that I want to have. Well, I can get this pretty easy with the Pathfinder tool. What I need to do first is get these kind of black circles. And I don't want to ungroup them right now. And I don't want to redraw them. So what I'm going to do is hold Shift and select all four of these. And I'm going to go Command C to copy and Command F to paste in front. Now there's a copy of these right on the top. See? You cannot really see it happen, but that's what happened. And now what I'm going to do is just go to the Pathfinder. This is the quickest way I can do this. And unite everything. Oh, wait, I need to expand it. I'm going to go to Object, Expand. And now I should be able to unite it all. There we go. Now I just have the silhouette of my background shape, and that's what I'm looking for. Now these are united. You can see. Now what I want to do is remove this front shape from this back shape here, from my square. So I'm going to click that, and I'm going to go minus front. And now I have a perfect little diamond. So now I'm going to get my star, and I'm going to copy Command C, Command F to paste in front, and I'm going to drag it down a little smaller. And I'm only going to make, because I don't have as much space as I have here in the circle, I'm only going to make like 2 transitions. So I'm just going to do this manually. And let's say I'm going to color this a little bit lighter for now. Just going to double click here. Just go a little bit lighter. And then Command C, Command F. And take it down. I don't want it to be too much smaller than this shape here. So let's say that's going to be 20%. And this is going to be, say, 50%. And this is going to be like 80% or something. So that's kind of like what I'm thinking of for my pattern. And now I need to make it work and do the right math and think about the scale. So I know this is 10 by 10. And like I said, I already know that if I go about 6 or 7 across is about the scale that I want, because I already did it as reference, to the little cards I showed you. So I already know, and I want to scale this down significantly more. And I'm just going to scale it. And that's still probably not small enough. I can only get probably 6. So I'm going to go scale it smaller. And it's probably somewhere around there. So now what I actually have to do is delete this side. Instead of deleting them, what I'm going to do is put them there so I kind of know they're there to lock them in. And what I'm going to do is go to Object, Expand. And now what I'm going to do is go to View, Guides, Make Guides, Command 5. And now you could see that those circles are guides now. I'm going to make sure I got all my shapes here. And there, it locked right into my guide. Now, once I dragged it and locked it, I'm just going to go Command D, Command D, Command D, Command D. Now I got it almost perfect because I need these radials to line up with each other, this corner to corner. And I need to bring one this direction just in case. I like to be covered with everything while I'm working. So now what I want to do is make sure that this corner lines up to this corner. So I'm just going to drag this a little bit smaller. And I have to just keep nudging it. And I'm trying to get it approximately perfect. And I'll show you why approximate. So this one, more stuff. Oops, that's too much. I lost my stars there. And the thing is, we need to get them perfect because we're having a repeat and we don't want anything, any of our seams off. So now I kind of have to redo all this. So this is another kind of like sketch. I can hide my guides by pressing Command colon. They're still there, but they're hidden. So now what I have to do is I've done the kind of visual, but now I have to do the mathematical part of it. So I'm going to delete these two. I probably don't need those two. And I'm going to keep it like this. And what I need to do is, I know this is 720 across. So to start, I'm just going to delete this one. Say delete these two. And I'm going to select these two, and I'm going to group them, Command G. And now I'm going to go Shift Command M for move, and I'm going to move it 720 horizontal, 0 vertical, and I'm going to press copy. All right, so these are grouped, and these are in the exact same place on the edges. All right, so now I need to group all these individually. And this might move negligibly. It might not move at all. But what I'm doing now is I'm basically make columns, oops, out of these. And now I'm going to go over to my align tool and I'm going to space them evenly through the horizontal. So you might see them jump a little bit. You might not see them jump at all because it's so minuscule, the movement. It moved just a tiny bit. Watch it when I undo it. Watch right here. You can see it move. So it's tiny bit, but that means now that my star is off, probably a hairline. See? So now I got to distribute my star. So now I have to kind of do the same thing with the stars and make sure that this one, I should have grouped all these together in the beginning. Well, now I know if I just move it a hair, it's not going to do what I want it to do. I don't think, oh, maybe I can lock it in there. It's going to be really hard to lock in there with my Wacom. Oh, I got it. So we have that one locked in, and now let's make sure this one's locked in over here. Group. Another thing I can do is add kind of like a stroke, since that's behind, to the outer shape. And I can also probably just put a background over the whole square of that color in the background, whatever color I land on. So I'm going to group these to kind of patch anything that might slide through. All right, so I got all of those selected there. And I got the two end ones in line. So now if I space them, they should lock into place now. And I shouldn't really have any white lines. It looks good. All right, so now I have my first setup going. Now I need to do the exact same thing, but now working downward. But I need to also consider now, do I want to start coloring this now? My idea is to maybe just do something monochromatic or two color where the circle is one color and the star is a different color. Excuse me. The monochromatic thing would make it easy for them to make, versions in different colors really easily. So I'm not really sure exactly where I want to go with that yet. So maybe I'll just continue building this now as is. And I need to do the same thing vertically. So now I'm going to select all of these guys and ungroup them, Shift Command G. And now I'm going to get all the circles at the bottom and delete all of those. I'm going to group this as a solid, Command G together. And then let's see if it locks into place there. I want to do it on my first swoop because if I can get it to lock into place on my first swoop, I can try to just see if it goes straight down. I think that's in place. Now I can do Command D, Command D, Command D, Command D. All right. So let me check this to see, because now I need to make sure that these are all spaced evenly through the vertical. So let me check this. And what I'm going to do is just go in here. I'm going to double click into it and just select the circle, Command C. I'm going to go Command F and paste in front. And now I'm going to just move this by itself down 720. And I'm moving the whole thing. Now what I'm going to do is to see if that lines up is I'm going to press Command Y. It looks like it's a little bit off because that line looks thicker to me. So it's a hair off. So I do need to readjust all of those. So how do I do that is do the same thing. So I'm going to delete this. I go back to this, group that. I'm going to move this whole thing, 720. All right. And then I'm going to, all those lines are already grouped. So I'm just going to go here to align and distribute them vertically. Oh, there's an extra one in there. I thought I saw that happen here. Oh, actually, let me. And we're going to just distribute it. All right, it barely moved. Perfect. So now that should be a repeat. So now what we got to do is put our background bounding box to make it repeat. So I'm going to go to my layers. And at this point, I'm going to call this art. And then I'm going to do background. And I'm going to drag that down below art. All right, and in my background, I'm going to set that up by creating, I'm going to lock my art so it doesn't do anything to that. And I'm going to go here to the corner and I'm going to put in 720 by 720. And then I'm going to go to, okay, I'm going to go to my properties and make sure it's at 0 exactly. See, it's off by a little bit. All right. So now we have it all lined up with a bounding box. Oops, let me click it. I need to do zero fill, zero stroke, like that. So now I have my bounding box on my background, my art on my foreground. I can select all of this now, drag it over here. And now I have my repeat pattern done in monochrome, black and white. All right, I'm gonna stop for any questions really quick. Yeah, Karen, I will probably putting this on my YouTube channel. I am recording it, yes. Sweetie, when I was moving the stars, when I was copying them, I was copying them from the outer star and then going inward. So I was copying one and then shrinking it down and then copying it and then pasting it to the front of that one and shrinking it down. So I was doing Command F. So you have Command V, which does paste. Command F does it paste it in place, but in front of whatever you're doing. And Command B paste it to the back of whatever you're doing. Okay, sweetie.
Okay, what I meant was when you were trying to adjust the size to make sure that everything fits in perfectly. And you were pasting or moving it from left to right.
When I was moving it left to right,
You know how you were adjusting it so that there's no
I was
gap.
just looking to make sure, yeah, I was looking to make sure the center of the star was lined up between those curves there.
So when you moved it to make the adjustment, were you just moving from the corner or
I was just
were you?
clicking, I had grouped all those stars together,
Oh,
and then I
sure.
was
Okay, got it.
clicking on the group.
Mm-hmm.
I was dragging it and I was holding shift because when you drag it and
Oh, yeah.
hold shift, it keeps it locked into the horizon line or the
Okay.
vertical line or 45 degree.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
You're welcome. Karen, I'm not sure. You can do ombre if you're doing. I'm pretty sure because they're using Illustrator and Minted, you can do gradients. You might want to read on their website to see if they have any recommendations about using gradients. But I'm pretty sure you can use gradients in Illustrator the way Minted prints. You couldn't, for example, if you were trying to foil part of that ombre, you would have to foil like over it. Because the foil just needs to be, it's thought of like a spot color, like you would think of a Pantone color, but foil can't be gradated. It can graphically, but that gets technical. Yeah, they say they want a maximum. Well, they say that a maximum of 6 colors is like ideal for them. If you keep 6 colors in your palette, you don't want to overdo it. And if you take any of my classes, you know that I say usually like 6 to 8 colors, 8 to 12 max is like the high end. And that really will help keep your kind of palette palatable. Like you can really take everything in. And it also will help keep your collections more cohesive if you limit your colors. All right, let's get to the second part of this. All right, so I have my repeat working. Everything looks good. And I'm basically happy with that. So now what I need to do is figure out what colors I'm going to use. And I kind of had this random Christmas color palette pulled up for some reason. And I was thinking peaches, and I don't know why, probably because the Pantone peach color of the year, all of those things. So let's see if this works in group or not. But I'm going to use the magic wand tool. And I'm just going to click the black circle. Actually, I need to expand all of these first. Let me do that. So I'm going to select everything. I'm going to lock my background layer because that's why I keep my background layer locked. Once I have it set up, I don't need to, I don't want to accidentally move it or fuss with my bounding box. And I usually put my background color on there as well. So once that's in place, like I don't mess with that. That's there. And then I work with the art layer where I have like all my manipulation. Sometimes there's a foreground layer, a detail layer, those sorts of things, depending on what I'm working on. So now I'm on my art layer. I have this all selected and I'm going to go to object and go to expand. And there we got everything expanded. Now I want to go in here and I want to select all the black circles and I'm going to start with that as kind of the ground color for doing it in a monochromatic sense still. So I'm going to go to my magic wand tool, which is also Y on the keyboard, and click my black. And I think what's happening is because I used a tone here or like a tint of it, it's selecting those colors as well. So I might not be able to use that tool here, but let's see if something else works. There. This other trick is instead of magic wand, I have it set up on my keyboard as Shift Option Command R. You might not have that set up. You might have it set up as Shift Command R if you've taken immersion, or Command R maybe, if you've taken it from as immersion from Bonnie Christine. But what that does is it selects the same fill. You can set that by going to keyboard shortcuts and I think it's under menu commands, object. No, that's not it. Select. Under select, select same, and here, fill color. So if I use this key command, it will select anything that's filled with that color on my board, artboard. All right, so that's what I'm using now to get all the blacks. And now I can color them whatever color I want. So let's start with something peachy for now. And now I probably want to get some other variations of this peach color because that's going to be my darkest color. So for me to get those variations, I already have two down here, but I'm going to start with this color and get some tints of it. So I have everything grouped, so I have to keep double clicking into everything to get this color pulled up here. And I'm going to make a new swatch. I'm just going a little bit lighter up that direction. And I'm going to pull my swatch down here. Actually, I don't want to do that. Stand by. I'm going to go back and just double click here on this swatch. Up here in this box. This will be better. And now I can go here and make this lighter. And now I'm going to drag down a new swatch. That way I don't change the shape, this color shape. All right, now I want to get all of these gray. So I'm going to use my direct selection tool just to select the gray box. That way I don't have to go down like I just showed you into all the groups. And now I'm going to do Shift Option Command R to select same. And now I'm going to fill it with the lighter color. All right. Now I'm going to do the same. I'm going to double click this lighter color and I'm going to go lighter. I'm going to move that here. Actually here. I'm going to select this one, Shift Command R, color that lighter. So this next one needs to be lighter based on this one. Oops, I accidentally colored that thing. Let me do that again. Put them there. And then I'm going to make this one even lighter. Just a hint of color. It's almost white, but better than being just white. All right, and that's the effect that I'm going for. And so now I want to do the same with this. And I want to make that, oops. Probably maybe the mid-tone. See what it looks like, the darker one. And then maybe this one, the mid-tone. That looks nice, I think. Let's see. That's too much, maybe. Yeah, that looks nice. So basically, yeah, that's the initial pattern look I'm going for. So I want to kind of record this into my swatches where I'm at right now. And just drag this over there. I'll do a check. Looks great. All right, I think that one's good to go. So now at this point, I can start to do color variations. I could start to see what it looks like if I used different colors. For example, and here's a certain point where I'm doing color variations, and because I have two patterns, I might not want them on the same artboard. So, I mean, the same layer. That might give me a little bit more flexibility selecting colors. But then again, it might not. And because I already changed those colors, I might have to do some things a little bit more manually. Now that I think about it anyways, I should have probably saved that black layer. I usually do save those sort of things. Like um I work in layers like that, where I mean like little breadcrumb trails. Because now this star would have already been a different color, and I wouldn't have to pick it out separately. Now I have to pick them out separately because they have the same color in common as this. So if I want to keep the circle the same, then and I want to change the star, then that opens up like a whole new can of worms for me. So if I wanted to do this, for example, and I wanted to alter these colors, now I kind of have to go and do this all a bit manually here by using Shift. Oops, and you can see how this can be a little bit annoying. Ah. And then you kind of have to do them, bit by bit. I would probably have selected all of those. And then I could do it like I could remove everything. I could also start selecting these and grouping these now if I know I want to change colors in the future. So I can group this row together. Oops, it's already grouped, so I have to ungroup everything. But I could group that row together if I wanted, if I start thinking about the way that I might be doing iterations of this. I could just test a little area right here and just see like, how does this look if I do, alternate colors or different colors? And that way I'm not like overcommitting to getting a whole design out, but I'm getting an idea of, do I want to explore that further, or does that not work? I can get an idea now like, oh, that's kind of what it looks like if I start alternating these. I can do quick sort of, work-throughs like that. So at this point, we have a pattern that we could use, and I can copy this now from here, the fill, Command C to copy. I can now go into my minted art, and I can paste it here. And you can see how large this is. So I did mine 10 inches. This looks a little bit larger, maybe. So what they want to see here is they want you to see how you imagine this scaled. So you can scale your artwork, you know, looking at this ruler, looking at how you think it feels in terms of scale. You can scale your artwork here. And because it's vector, they can always resize it and rescale it if they think it needs to come up or come down, but they want to know how you think it looks as an artist. Also remember that when you're posting, I mean, you should always be thinking about your end result. But when you're posting, remember how small the thumbnails is that people are looking at voting on. So, you know, can this go up a little bit bigger, like for the thumbnail, but also work in the real world? Yes. You know, but I don't want to be like horsey and make it like big, you know, but there, it just kind of depends on what you want. But let me show you where you need to put this when you bring your art in. Where you need to put this is when you open your file and you open your layers, there's a do not edit layer. And I would just lock that. And then here you have a wrap layer. And if you click here, there's another layer that says place art here. So you can click that and you can click that and it will activate the shape. Okay. And then what you can do is you can double click. So now you're inside that shape. You could see that there's a gray fill in here. And what I want to do is paste my art in here now. And I want to scale it to whatever I think is going to be good. All right, let's say that's it. And I'm going to click out of it, and you can see that it put it into the clipping mask with all the effects, the transparency layer and everything. Now what I need to do is export this artboard, and the instructions are right here, but you go to File, Export, Save for Web, and then you want to do your new size width 1100. And it should automatically link to the top. And then you're going to hit save. And this is the file that you upload to Spoonflower for the voting process for your entry. And one thing I want to say is that when you work or submit to Spoonflower, they want to CMYK artwork. I work in RGB. You can see when I click here, it says RGB in the parentheses. And when I click here, it says CMYK. I work in RGB, and the reason is I have a brighter color spectrum in RGB. And I can work in this, and when I submit this, let's say Spoonflower says, hey, we want this file, you know, this actual artwork from you. I can make a CMYK file of this, which is actually what I probably would do first, is make a CMYK version of this and then put it into this file, rather than I just brought it over from RGB. I would probably take a little bit more time noodling that color for CMYK. But what happens is sometimes you have a loss of color, depending on, you know, the spectrum of hues you're working in when you go to CMYK, but that's the way that they're going to be using and printing your file. So it's important that you adjust your colors when you go to CMYK. The reason why I still start in RGB, knowing that they need CMYK, is that let's say my wrapping paper is rejected. Then what do I have? I have a file made in CMYK. Well, what if I want to upload this to Spoonflower now and try to make some money with it and put it on as a fabric? Well, they want RGB files. Well, I've already limited myself to a range of color that's less than possible because our RGB spectrum is greater. So I might start out with a brighter kind of spectrum that's desired, which I usually do, and then I have to kind of remove a little bit color when I convert it to CMYK. And that's just part of the commercial art process that you have to come to understand and expect and respect. All right. Any questions? Let's see. Sweetie, 6 colors includes tints. I don't know that specifically for sure. I think what Minted is, I think they're probably trying to limit people who have too broad a palettes, who don't understand how to work with color. But in working with tints, I would say you don't want to over tint things, but it depends on how you think about tints. If I'm using a tint of a spot color, then I'm using the same color. But if I create a new color that's a tint, that's a visual tint of that color, then that's considered a new color, a new ink. Let's say oh, we're only printing with 6 Pantone colors, and that's the limit. Then you could get more out of it by making a tint of one of those colors. But if you added a color that's a visual tint, like 2 different PMS oranges, for example, a lighter orange and a darker orange, then that's considered 2 inks. Can you make a snapshot in the history panel and then go back to the grayscale version in history and copy it and paste it in? I don't know, maybe. History's much newer in Illustrator. It took them they just came out maybe last year or the year before. So I haven't used it a lot in Illustrator. I've used it more in Photoshop, but the history in the Illustrator is weird because it like counts. You're doing a lot more tiny little steps to create something in Illustrator than you are in Photoshop. So the jumps were like too minuscule for them to like measure and make it work. And then they started making it work, and it was kind of weird, but I haven't used it that much, to be honest. My YouTube channel is Studio Chica. Oh, you guys put it in there. Thank you. If you need to compress your image, if you're setting your width and says your file's too large, you need to export it as a JPEG and adjust it. Oh yeah, I was going to show you how the foil works. I didn't know how much time I was going to take. Let me show you a couple things really quick. So let's say I'm going to export this file. Oops, this is not the file to export, sorry. We're saying I'm going to export this file. I'm going to go to export, save for web. Make sure it's set to JPEG, not PNG. And then what you need to look at is down here in this corner where it has how many K your file is. You can see here if I change my quality, the JPEG file export size gets lower. You can use it by using maximum, high. That also changes the quality in 20% increments. But usually that is what you're going to use, and you're going to want to, it's like a little, game. Like, okay, let's say it was, hold on, let me go back to my original. So my original is 485, and let's say I had to have it below 300. So I would go very high, and that's 227, and it's at 80%. And so I would kind of say like, oh, can I get a little bit more? Can I get 5% more quality out of it? And I can. Oops, it says 272. So maybe 85% is a good quality for me, and then I could export it. Oops. All right. I can show you the foil, yes. I don't have any recommendations on what to do. There's a wide variety that they're looking for. Like it says, they're looking for them in specific order of those themes. So that's what they're prioritizing. You also might want to look at, know that they're specifically looking for the things that they're having special prizes for. And then just go and look at the minted, products and see what style. There's certain things I would never enter there because nobody's going to buy it. That doesn't fly. That's not what their community's looking for, what their customers looking for. So sometimes I have to make little style decisions or color decisions that might make my design a little bit different than I would normally make. But that's because I know I have the client in mind. I'm not just trying to put something out there because like, oh, I'm going to put out some cool artwork and it's going to take over and everybody's going to love it. Like, no, there's already a certain type of person they're shopping, looking for stuff. There's a certain type of people who are generally entering the contest as well. So it's important to keep that in mind. Annie, so yes, they will ask you for AI files in the end, but you need to export a RGB JPEG. They want a CMYK AI file in the end, but to enter and upload for the view that we see on the web as viewers, you need to upload a RGB JPEG. All right, so let me show you a couple different things. All right, so I had this design that I was going to do like a ho 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 design sort of thing. And I don't really know exactly like how I'm going to arrange it or what I'm going to do with it. But I'll show you really quick. I was thinking about doing it like just really simple and less like, I don't know, less illustrated looking and kind of more tasty, high-end looking by doing it with just a one color foil. So let's say I'm not going to really make a pattern right now. Okay, so let's say I was making a pattern out of this. This is much more kind of like an illustrated look, but I could make this a little bit more kind of high-end feeling by maybe taking out one of the candy cane colors. So let's say I take out the kind of the light pink. And put a fill in that for none. Oops. All right, so let's say I do that. And then, actually, you know what? I could keep that for what I'm thinking. Let's say I do keep that. Mm. I'm trying to think, sorry, I'm trying to think of what's the best thing to show you. It's the easiest way for you to understand it. Okay, let's get rid of it for now. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to copy this and put this on a new layer because if I use that technique I was using to select all the colors, it's going to select it out of this too. So I'm just going to make a new layer here. I'm going to lock and hide all these other layers. Command F to paste in front. So I'm basically exactly where I was. Okay, I'm going to select this pink, select same, fill none. So now we're working on this color. I'm actually going to delete those shapes, I think, to make it easier. So now I only have this one shape, vector shape for each one of these colors. All right. So now I want to fill these, let's say, with foil. So what I'm going to do is go place, Shift Command P, or you can go here to place. And here's my minted wrapping paper folder. And in my incoming assets, I have their challenge folder they sent me. And here they have foil and craft textures. So here are all the foils they have available. And I think for this one, I want to do rose gold. So I'm going to place it. And instead of just clicking it, I'm going to drag it over the kind of entire area. I want to flip it horizontal so it fills kind of that green space in the background. So I'm dragging it about that size. Now I'm going to flip it this way. So there's a couple different ways, and I can stretch this too because it's not like, it's an effect. So I can stretch it just to cover the art I need it to. And I'm going to go Shift, Command, mine or left bracket to send it to the back for a second. So what I want to show you is that I have one shape here, and I'm going to bring that to the front. And what I need to do is I need to create a clipping mask so that the foil shows through where the red is. Okay, and you want to keep your clipping mask as clean as possible. So you can see this is made from several shapes right now. And what I probably want to do is to combine these with my Pathfinder first, just to make it a clean file. And you can see it took away a couple little things in there, a couple of the paths. And so I just want to make sure that's clean first. And I'm going to just try it now. We want our shape that we're making the mask of to the front, and we want our effect texture in the background. So I'm going to select both. And then I'm going to go to Object, Clipping Mask, Make, which is Command 7. And you can see it doesn't show me anything. And that's because something's wrong with my mask here. It's too complex. So what I need to do is I need to go to Object and go to Compound Path Make. Now this kind of recognizes this all as one shape. I don't want to get too much into explaining that because it's difficult. Now let's try it and see if that works. Command 7, and that works. You can now see that we have our fill in the compound path. If I want to move where that is, I can double click in here and I can move my, I can double click in here and I can move my ho 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 around, or I can move my art around and get it in a different area. If you're working with various shapes, you're going to want to do the same thing. So I'm going to actually delete all these. I'm going to click this. I'm going to release my clipping mask. And let's say I want to have multiple ho-ho-hos. So, and this just kind of depends on each instance is a little different the way that I treat this. And I'll show you the difference. So one way I could do this is have my foil selected into my shape first, or I can select multiple shapes. I can go to Object, Compound Path Make, and then let's see, hold on. I think I need to ungroup this compound path first. I'm going to go to Object, Compound Path, Release. Illustrator can't overcomplicate things is the thing. Oh, there's something else there. Here we go. What is that? Okay, that's right. All right, so Illustrator doesn't want to overcomplicate things. So instead of me making a compound path of this first, what it's wanting me to do is to make my multiples first, and then select all of these and make one compound path of this. All right, so now that's a compound path. So now I have all these ho-ho-hos, and I'm going to select it, and it did it. It masked it. It said it was very complex, and it knew it. And then I'm going to mask this one. So what's the difference in these is that this one, I can copy this now and have these illustrated individually, let's say. This one, however, if you're illustrating like a package design or something that, for example, this wrapping paper, and you want the full kind of shine effect to go across the whole sort of part that's supposed to be foil, this is a better way to do it. This simulates metallic in a specific spot and it looks great, but this simulates it kind of in a bigger, thinking about it from a more bird's eye view, bigger way. You know that it's reflecting across a bigger area. And so for me, I usually will do this method more, you know, where I can move all these and figure out, especially if you're using like a gradient to do this and fake it instead of right now we're using an image to fake it. But if I wanted to use a gradient, with a gradient, I can have a lot of control over, let me show you. And this is fermented, so of course you're going to kind of do it the way they want with this, but this is another way. And I think I have a YouTube on this as well to fake it with a gradient. Huh, why isn't it let me do that? All right, I'm going to release this. Oh, there we go. That's what I want to do. I'm going to draw a fill in here instead of that image we were using. And I'm going to go over to my swatches. I'm going to go to Open Swatch Library. I'm going to go to Gradients. I'm going to go to Metals. And now I can use any of these metallic gradients here. So there's a couple different ones. Here's gold. And you can see that it has different lines of the gradient. And when I'm using the gradient tool, I can adjust where each one of these points are, the darkest point, the hottest point of the reflection, the midtones. I can adjust how like hot that is or how smooth it is. And then I can also move that directionally. So that can help you achieve a look and figure out exactly how you want that highlight to look in your design. When you do that over a bigger area, you have more control, like I said, of that kind of bird's eye view and it looking like, for example, the reflection goes down diagonally across the whole page, across the whole metallic part. So that gives a little bit more of a realistic view. But either of those directions are acceptable. I have no idea how to get more votes in Minted. It is a popularity contest and it can be very competitive. The best way to get votes in Minted is to get your design up there like the first day, as soon as possible. That's when I get the most votes. I'm doing it the last day this time, so I know I'm not going to get any votes, but it's whatever. I mean, I'll get votes when they go through the voting process, but there's other things that like people you can tell like will favorite your image and then your votes get higher and that sort of thing. I don't know if you tried with the complex, your images might be too complex. Yes, Betsy, you can post it on your Instagram. You know, even when you get on these sites like Spoonflower and Minted and all of these things, it's highly competitive and there's so much to go through. And that's kind of why I think, you know, the really good designs do pop out on Minted. I see on Minted the most, I think I see a wider display of talent, you know, from very hobbyist beginner to full-fledged professional design. And I see that the most on Minted. And I, like I said, I think Minted, though there's a lot to like clutter to cut through, I think you have kind of better chances in Spoonflower of winning usually. And I think you also have better prizes when you win. You know, it's like a $200 gift card on Spoonflower is cool, but $2,000 is a lot better. And 6%, you know, of commission and all that. All right, everybody. That was today's live work through Watch Me Work. Anyone have any more questions before we go? No? All right, you are all very welcome. It was so good to see you all here. Thanks for showing up. If you want to learn more about surface pattern design, don't forget Bonnie is having her workshop this week, and that honestly is how I got started. I first took a Skillshare class from her, and when I saw she was offering this workshop, I took it. And now you know that I'm an expert on her team. I work for her. I loved immersion when that came around, which is coming, I think, in a week or 2 weeks. And so I highly recommend it if you haven't taken it yet. All right, everybody, I'll try to get this posted to YouTube if you want to watch the replay. And for those of you who didn't attend. All right, everybody, thank you. Have a great day.